Hi guys, it's Heather. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to go over a topic that has been most asked, and I feel like there's a lot of people who really don't know where to start as far as print on demand and Etsy goes, or print on demand and Shopify goes. A lot of people are kind of in a analysis paralysis phase in creating their stores, where they're like, okay, well, I can create a store on Shopify, I can create a store on Etsy, but which one is right for me, and should I waste my time on one platform rather than the other? And sometimes it does feel like a waste of your time, but it might be the best option for you as far as your budget goes, as far as your knowledge goes, and your stages in owning a business. A lot of people don't know all that goes into owning their first online business, especially with e-commerce. There's so many tax implications, there's so much legal things that go on with that as well. It's not all dandelions and butterflies out there, unfortunately. And that's why I wanted to make this video is, should you use Shopify starting out with a print-on-demand business, or should you use Etsy starting out? I think a lot of my visitors and viewers on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram all are in relatively kind of a same area where they're either beginner to intermediate, and they're looking for help on, first of all, their budgets, second of all, how they should start their e-commerce journeys. And we're going to sit down in a moment here, and I'm going to give you guys all the details on what the pros and cons are, and hopefully by the end of this video, guys, you can figure out if you want to start with Etsy or start with Shopify. And I'm going to go over my experiences with Shopify and Etsy. I've been on both platforms with print on demand, and there are perks to both platforms. I'm not going to lie. I'm not pro one of them, but personally what I do for my t-shirts and sweatshirt business is I sell on Etsy. Some people have different options as far as that goes. Some people absolutely will not use Etsy. Some people will absolutely not use Shopify. So it really is ultimately dependent on you and where you want to take your business. But for me personally, I chose Etsy, and I'm going to go over why I choose Etsy and continually choose Etsy as far as print on demand businesses go. And we're going to get into that during this video today. So stick around for more. So guys, one of the first things I want to talk about is Shopify. Why people use Shopify, what are the pros, what are the cons, and then we will get into what is the pros and cons of Etsy, and we're going to compare the two. People generally use Shopify for drop shipping, they use it for merch and inventory that they sell on their websites, they use it for handmade businesses, and there's so many other business models you can create with Shopify, such as a digital product Shopify store and all of that. There's so much, again, that goes along with Shopify. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people use it, especially if they're in the print-on-demand world. Shopify just really works with doing print-on-demand as well, and I think it's a really great place to go. So one of the pros for Shopify is there is a high amount of traffic control. So you are able to scale your store quite high with Shopify. And although there are methods of doing that with Etsy, it really isn't worth your while to scale an Etsy store through doing ads and campaigns, but you still can as far as Etsy goes. With Shopify, you have a lot of control overall with your Shopify store. With a third-party platform such as Etsy, Etsy can basically suspend your account, shut it down, shadow ban it at any time that they would like. So with Shopify, you don't have those issues. You're not scared at the end of the day as far as that goes that Shopify is going to shut you down, because you own that website, and technically they really can't shut you down unless there's some big legal issue with your store. That's when they would shut you down. So as far as that goes, Shopify is really great with kind of giving the seller more control over their business. There are a lot of cons to Shopify though, and usually those cons are related to being a new seller or a new business owner or entrepreneur in the e-commerce world. Now, one of the main cons is it's very costly for new businesses to get started, and your starting budget with Shopify is usually much higher than it would be with Etsy. So generally for a new Shopify store, you're looking at spending a few $100s when you first start off. If you're really looking to get into doing ads, creating really great products, maybe getting mock-up photos for your store, the Shopify subscription alone is $29 a month at the cheapest plan and most inexpensive plan. So those are things you kind of have to look into and account for if you're starting a Shopify store. The main thing that is a huge difference between Shopify and Etsy is that you don't have as much market validation when you start a Shopify store. Market validation, in the simplest of terms I can give, is that you validate your market that you're selling to by the amount of demand of that specific market. Maybe it's a niche or a product. You want to make sure that there's a demand for that product in the niche that you're selling in. And then on top of that, you want to make sure people actually want to buy your product. So you may have the right niche and product type selected, however, the design might not work and you're not getting that market validation as far as that goes. So that's something that's really tough with Shopify, because you will be spending a lot of money just to test out your market, test out what's your target audience, what's the best-selling niche, what's the best-selling product. And you may have all of that correct, but your design might not be correct. These are things that you run across with Shopify as a new business owner. So just for the purpose of this video, if you're a beginner as far as owning an e-commerce store, if you're a beginner with Shopify drop shipping or print on demand, I think Shopify is just more advanced for people who don't know exactly what type of product they're creating. They don't know what niche they're going into. And on top of that, they might not have a lot of skill with design yet. And maybe you could outsource people from Fiverr to kind of create some really good designs, but with Shopify it's just really hard to validate your products. And I will give you guys an example of my Shopify store when I first began, and that's going to be in a future video here, but look out for that one because I'm really excited to share my experience with Shopify and why I do suggest Etsy over Shopify. And I know that's not a popular opinion among the e-commerce world. A lot of people prefer Shopify over Etsy. For me personally, my best advice is to never keep all of your eggs in one basket. Try to kind of establish maybe a online presence or a different stream of income, especially if you're doing this full time. You don't want to stick just to Etsy. That's what I try to tell my viewers, my students, my clients, the people that I work with on their own Etsy and print on demand stores, is you don't want to just quit your day job for Etsy alone, because Etsy does have a lot of control over their stores. There's things that you want to control in your business, and Etsy has that control over a lot of things in your business. So it's good to start with Etsy, but it is also good to branch out later down the line. I also wanted to delve into Etsy and Etsy's pros and cons. So Etsy has always been a market for handmade and unique items that they sell on their site, and that's kind of their aesthetic, so to speak. In the past few years, they have opened that unique part of Etsy up to print on demand sellers and people who sell t-shirts, sweatshirts, and items that are not necessarily mass produced, but they do fall into that category as unique. And a lot of handmade businesses do not like print on demand sellers on Etsy, to be quite honest. One of the reasons is because they think that print on demand is mass produced. And as much as I can see where that dislike comes from, I believe that these items are still unique because, first of all, I've created all of my own designs as far as Etsy and print on demand goes. So for me, all these designs are uniquely created for me. And I get the whole debate over, okay, Etsy should be for handmade and it shouldn't be for print on demand. But at the end of the day, this is still a small business for myself, and I should have just as much right to be on a platform that sells for a unique product type. I get the debate and I understand that, Etsy was originally for handmade businesses, but now as print on demand kind of grows, Etsy has catered to the print on demand business because they realize that we are still unique sellers, even though we are creating a lot of different items. But this allows small businesses like myself to grow and flourish in a community of other unique sellers. And although, a lot of handmade businesses do get kind of frustrated with that, especially the ones that are printing and packing and shipping their items on their own, I can totally understand that. Of course, again, this offers so many new job opportunities for people who can't have a job in a work environment or a normal 9-to-5 job because of disabilities or mental issues and other issues that you just are unable to have a job or a small business in a normal working environment. And that is the truth of a lot of jobs. There's so many homeless people in the world. I want to say this because I want to get on my podium and say this for a moment as far as being an influencer on this platform, but there are so many homeless people in the United States, across the world, and I think this is something to think about when you want to kind of hate on, so to speak, print-on-demand businesses. But the thing is, print-on-demand businesses offer a income to people who have been in debt, and it helps others pay off their debt. There's so many school loan debt in the world right now, and there's so many people who don't have access to utilities and a place to live and all of that. And print-on-demand offers a business that you can literally create on your phone alone. You don't need a laptop for this. A lot of media outlets don't shed light on this, but there are a lot of people who have disabilities and certain barriers that keep them from having a normal 9-to-5 job, and this is something that provides for those people who can just work at home. So as much hate as there might be on Etsy about opening up the Etsy platform to print-on-demand businesses, this is something that creates so many jobs for so many other people. And I was in that place where I was very uncomfortable with my 9-to-5, and I've helped other people who have had a lot of debt that they needed to get out of, and I've helped people who need to make a side income or a side hustle for their family to just pay bills. There's so many reasons why the print-on-demand world is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that Etsy has opened this up to sellers like myself and other people. Besides that, I wanted to go into the pros and cons of Etsy. So one of the reasons why I love using Etsy as my main print-on-demand platform is that Etsy has a built-in traffic source. So we know kind of through that what type of customers are going onto Etsy, and most of the time it's gift givers or people looking for gifts for a significant other, a friend, their mom, their cousin. They're looking for those gifts, and they're looking for something personalized and unique for their recipient. The other pro to Etsy is it's such a beginner friendly platform, and it is very budget friendly. You can start with Etsy with a very low budget of as low as $5, and honestly, to kind of get a full store up and running, you could spend $20 to $25 and let your listings kind of perform as they do over time. And then with Etsy, the other reason why it's such a beginner friendly platform is you can really test the market on Etsy, and you can kind of see what listings sell the most, what designs really sell, and what products that those designs are going on sell. You can test your market, you can test different niches, you can test different designs out, and you can really see what audience your items really sell to. And that's the beauty of Etsy, and that's why I love it the most, is because I know what products sell now, and I can take those products and put them into a Shopify store or my own website and go from there. So Etsy is a huge market validation tool, and I think that's why I always suggest starting on Etsy, because you're not spending that much upfront, and over time you can see what really sells and what people are really searching for organically. That's the thing that you really want to research, is what is your biggest demand as far as your items go. And sometimes you might think, oh, teacher t-shirts must be high in demand right now, and they might not be in the specific category that you're going into, such as math teachers. I haven't had many sales in math teacher t-shirts, but I have had a lot of sales in maybe a psychology professor t-shirt. So that's the difference between market research and validation, is you want to check the different niches and see which one's really selling, which one might not be really selling, and you go from there as far as that goes. There are a lot of cons to Etsy though, and I've kind of already touched base on these, but one of the cons that I haven't said yet is it is tougher to scale with Etsy if the Etsy algorithm is not picking up your listings. So there are ways to combat this, such as running your own ads with Etsy, so you can add on Etsy ads for your specific listings. Another con is Etsy is very saturated in certain markets. So if you're going into the t-shirt business on Etsy, you will see that there are hundreds to thousands of listings on Etsy, and it's kind of harder to get into that market. But once you have a listing that turns into a bestseller listing on Etsy, you'll notice very quickly that you'll start getting hundreds of sales per week. You can get up to 1,000 sales a month with Etsy, because that's how much traffic Etsy brings from their built-in platform. So there are ways around it. You can always create a social media account, all that. There's so many ways to kind of increase your traffic to your Etsy store. So another very not good part of Etsy is that you can get banned or suspended from Etsy. You can also get shadow banned from Etsy. So if you have a lot of open cases on your Etsy account and you realize that these issues aren't resolved, maybe a customer is asking for a refund on an item that was never delivered to them, and that issue is on USPS for not delivery. Sometimes when that happens, happens, a customer can open a case against you or file a claim against you. And this can actually shadow ban your store. A lot of people don't realize that. If you don't resolve it, if you don't refund the customer, you can get shadow banned. And that means that Etsy will just kind of not show your listings for a certain period of time. So that's something to kind of consider as far as that goes. Another issue with Etsy is there's a lot of copycat stores I've noticed on the platform. So when your listings really do well in the Etsy algorithm and the search, people really cling to that. And when you have that bestseller badge specifically on your listings, people will click into them and they will copy basically everything on your listing. I've had people copy literally the whole listing, and I cannot tell you how many DMCA takedown notices I have filed for people to get their listings taken off of Etsy for copying my intellectual property that I have uploaded on the Etsy website. Anytime you create a design or listing, that is your intellectual property. You own that. And if someone copies your items, you will have to flag them. And that's kind of a part of the annoyance with Etsy is there's so many copycat stores, unfortunately, that always pop up, then they get banned, then you'll see a new copycat store come up, they get banned again. So that's another issue that a lot of people see on Etsy as well. And that's why some people go off of the platform because they're frustrated with it. Another thing with Etsy and another con I mentioned before is Etsy can increase or decrease transaction rates whenever they would like. They can increase the amount that they charge for you as a seller. So they could increase the product listing prices. Currently, it's 20 cents to pay for a product listing or renew a product listing. But again, Etsy can increase that at any time that they would like. Along with that, they have transaction fees that recently raised. So it used to be 5%, now it's 6.5%. And as a seller on Etsy, that is very frustrating because that does take out quite a bit of a chunk of revenue and profit that you make as an Etsy seller. So that's another reason why a lot of people have recently left the Etsy platform. And I don't blame them because that is frustrating. For me personally, that takes out hundreds of dollars a month on Etsy. So it is frustrating as an Etsy seller, but the show must go on, guys. And I appreciate Etsy and that they do give a lot of organic traffic that I would have never had if I never did Etsy to begin with. So guys, now you might be wondering, so Heather, which one should I choose? Shopify sounds great, Etsy sounds great. Which one is best for me then? And it really depends on three factors that are specific to you. So first of all, what's your starting budget? Do you not really have much to start? If that's the case, then you will want to start with Etsy because you can spend, like I said, $5 to $10 to just start an Etsy store, and you can use a lot of organic traffic methods to bring your visitors over to your Etsy store and gain traction that way. If you have a higher budget to start, then Shopify might be a better route, but you can start both. You can have an Etsy store and a Shopify store. That's what I did once I kind of did my market research and got my validation through Etsy on a lot of my listings. I took those listings to Shopify and I built a Shopify store from that. However, there are a lot of drawbacks to Shopify, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, I haven't shared this on my YouTube channel yet, but I have closed a Shopify store where I sold t-shirts and sweatshirts at. The Shopify store actually did pretty well, but I had to close it for many different reasons, and I have seen a lot of pro Shopify YouTube channels, and I will say Shopify is a great platform to sell on, but if you have a low budget starting out, Etsy is generally your best bet. And I heard a lot of people suggest Teespring, Redbubble, Amazon merch, and those are great as well, but you have such a lack of control. You do not get the profit margins that you should be getting as far as those go, and there's a lot of other reasons why I would not suggest those accounts. I suggest Etsy plus Print on Demand because I really think that's your best bet, and that's where you can gain so much traction and so much of that free organic traffic to your Etsy store. The second factor that you need to consider when you're starting out, and if you're trying to decide between Shopify and Etsy, is your market validation. Do you have market validation for the specific product that you want to sell and design that you want to sell? Do you know your niche and do you know your target audience? And if you don't know these things, I don't think Shopify is right for you. I've spent hundreds of dollars on Facebook ads on products I thought were great. And some of the products were great, but sometimes you have the wrong audience you're promoting your products to, or maybe you have the wrong product to begin with, maybe a certain color people don't like. You need to find the favorite listings and products of what you're creating, and sometimes what you think is your favorite is not your customers and audience's favorite. So I think Etsy again is the best because you get that market validation through Etsy, and the best selling items and listings on Etsy, you can really see what is selling, what's working for you, and how to take that to your own website that might be a Shopify store. The third factor is profit margins in your product selection. So this is something that's very important. As far as Etsy goes, you can get away with selling items that have a lower profit margin. And items like that are t-shirts. They could be prints, mugs, and other things like that. Those are very low profit margin items, meaning that you're making about $5 to $10 of profit per item. And I think for Etsy, that's a really great place to go for low profit margin items that you can sell a lot of. However, I will say if you're selling a higher profit margin item, such as a blanket, maybe a hoodie, maybe a car seat. There's so many other items that you could sell that are higher profit margins. Shopify is your best place to go. You want higher profit margins if you're using ads on these certain products because first of all, it does cost about $5 to $20 to get a conversion on an ad. So from my experience with using Facebook ads, I realized that to get one sale on a t-shirt, I spent up to $10 to $15 per t-shirt sale I had. And these are very common conversion rates as far as Facebook ads go right now. Facebook ads are very expensive, and there's a lot of other ads that you can use to promote your products, such as Google ads, Pinterest, and Instagram. Instagram is part of Facebook though, so you're still spending the same amount for Facebook and Instagram ads. But again, guys, there's just so many other avenues as far as advertising goes that you can look into. But for me personally, I found that getting sales on t-shirts was very difficult to acquire, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing Shopify with my t-shirt business and I decided to kind of go a different route. I wanted to give my personal story as far as this all goes. Is for me, I had to decide, okay, do I want to sell on Etsy? Do I want to sell on Shopify? And even when I created my Shopify store that sold t-shirts and sweatshirts, I realized I had to reevaluate everything and list out all of the pros and cons to Shopify versus Etsy, and I found that Etsy was still the clear winner in my case as far as my profit margins go between Shopify and Etsy and how much time I allocated to either platform. I was allocating so much more time to Shopify, fixing customer service, technical issues, setting up the Shopify website, and doing ads and marketing. There was so much time involved with doing Shopify when I could have just done Etsy, and I didn't have to worry about marketing strategies. I didn't have to worry about doing social media, my website layout, any technical difficulties I had. For me, all I had to focus on was customer service, which I did 30 minutes to an hour a day with Etsy and print on demand as opposed to Shopify and print on demand. So for me, the clear winner and the reason why I stick to Etsy is because first of all, anyone can do it. You can start with a low budget of $5 to $10. I started off with about $10 to $20 when I first began, and I uploaded a bunch of listings. I have other videos that I go over my strategies on that, and I have a free course down below where I tell you guys how to set up a print on demand and Etsy store. I go over the XYZ, the exact strategies on how to do that, and then I offer other courses that give you guys more insight to content that I've spent hours and hours trying to create for you guys. Along with that, when I began my Etsy store, I didn't know what products to sell. I really did not know which products were selling, which products I could sell, and even if I kind of looked over best sellers on Etsy, I knew I didn't want to copy them, and I didn't because that's intellectual property infringement, first of all, and second of all, I wanted to create my own path on Etsy and my own claim to fame, so to speak, where I create my own type of style as far as designs go, and it took some time to develop that. I'm not gonna lie. After 200 listings, I finally got my claim to fame and a certain design style that I knew worked for my store and my store's aesthetic that I sold a lot of over time. So for me, the product and market validation with Etsy just helped me so much to grow as an e-commerce and business owner, and even teach other people now how to find their own design style, how to find products and niches that work. And I learned that all through Etsy. The third reason is because my profit margins were very low to begin with on Etsy, and they still are fairly low. I make $5 to $10 per sale, but I sell 20 items a day on Etsy. So over time, these might seem like smaller profit margins, but they actually create a high amount of revenue and income for me to do this as my full-time job now. So there's so many pros to Etsy, and you can sell higher profit margin items on Etsy as well if you find those certain items and you can really find the best way to market those items and sell them on your Etsy account. I personally have had really great experiences with Etsy and the full-time income it has given me on this platform without me having to stress as much about the little details such as converting customers or bringing traffic to my website. I honestly don't do any social media anymore. I haven't in months. Sometimes I will post on some Facebook groups every once in a while during slower seasons, such as right now. But generally speaking, I don't do much social media. I don't spend on ads, and I really get that traction and that organic traffic through Etsy now, which is really cool. In conclusion to this video, guys, I think Etsy is your best choice if you're selling t-shirts and sweatshirts. However, as far as print on demand goes, if you want to go into higher profit margin items, I think it would be worth your while to do a Shopify store. I am still working on a new beta Shopify store as we speak, and I'm going to give you guys my results later on down the line with that. But I think Shopify is still worth your while. Just don't waste your time like I did with lower profit margin t-shirts and sweatshirts. It's just not worth your time. And again, ads are kind of expensive. Unless you're getting that organic traffic on your own through social media, it just might not be worth your while as far as t-shirts and sweatshirts go. I know there are profitable t-shirt and sweatshirt stores out there, but for me personally, it just didn't work out that well. So guys, if you want to hear more about my Shopify experience, definitely subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video. And before we leave, don't forget to try out my free Etsy plus print on demand crash course. If you guys want to know how to set up your own Etsy plus Printify or Printful store, or if you guys want any tips and tricks, if you want to learn about SEO, exactly how to handle customer service defects and all of that, I really provide it on my website. So go to the links in the description and get that free course below. In frame.